The baby's scream shattered the glass office silence, and every executive froze as the tiny black child clung to her mother's shirt like the world was ending. "Keep her away from the desks," the white millionaire barked, slamming his hand on the polished table so hard the pens jumped. 5 men in suits stared at the trembling cleaner, a black mother, like she dragged a wild animal into their meeting, not an 18-month-old girl. And when the baby locked eyes with a millionaire, her scream turned into a full-body shake of terror, as if she sensed something no one else could. If this already made your blood boil, tap like, and subscribe so you don't miss stories where justice finally wins. Keisha Washington didn't move. Couldn't. Her arms were shaking from trying to keep her daughter steady. She'd worked in this building for 2 years, invisible, silent, always the one cleaning the messes the executives made. Tonight, she was just trying to survive one shift. Just one. But her babysitter had canceled, again, and rent was already 2 weeks late. Leaving her baby home alone wasn't an option. "Ma'am," the VP snapped, pinching the bridge of his nose like her existence was a migraine. What part of private meeting was unclear? "Remove the child. Now!" Keisha swallowed. "Sir, please." "She'll be quiet. I just needed to keep my job tonight." The room vibrated with irritation. 2 of the executives exchanged looks. The kind of look rich men use when deciding how disposable a poor black woman's livelihood was. Then the baby, little Zuri, suddenly twisted in Keisha's arms, eyes darting around the room in pure panic. She always reacted like this. Doctors said she had stranger anxiety. But this wasn't normal fear. It was like something inside her recognized danger. And when her eyes landed on the white millionaire again, Brandon Whitmore, CEO of Whitmore Holdings, she shrieked like her skin was on fire. Brandon recoiled. "What is wrong with this kid? Get her out." Keisha rocked the baby, whispering, "It's okay, Zuri, it's okay." But the child was inconsolable, clutching fistfuls of her mother's shirt, burying her face like she was hiding from a monster. Brandon's jaw tightened. He hated noise, hated interruptions, hated anything that wasn't under his control. And a crying black toddler in his boardroom was the exact opposite of control. Security. He snapped toward the door. Now. Keisha's stomach dropped. If security escorted her out, she'd be written up. Too many write-ups and she'd lose everything. Her job, her apartment, her safety. Then, just as a guard opened the door, Zuri stopped screaming, stopped shaking, stopped breathing hard. Her eyes locked onto someone standing near the back of the room. Someone she shouldn't recognize. Someone who shouldn't matter. But she lifted her tiny arms toward him like he was the only safe place in the world. And every man in that room turned in stunned disbelief. Because the baby was reaching for Brandon's younger brother, the one man she had never seen before. Zuri's tiny arms stayed stretched toward the back of the room, her whole body trembling with a fear that suddenly wasn't fear anymore. It was something else. Something Keisha had never seen in her daughter. Not with strangers, not with neighbors, not even with her own babysitter. The executives followed the baby's gaze until they landed on him. Chad Whitmore, Brandon's younger brother. Quiet, reserved, always half a step behind the power in the room. He stood frozen, unsure whether to move or pretend he wasn't being singled out by a crying toddler. His hands hovered awkwardly at his sides. Keisha blinked, trying to understand. Zuri avoided everyone, even family friends, even doctors. The little girl would bury her face in Keisha's neck at the slightest approach from a stranger. But now, her small fingers opened and closed, begging to be held by a man she had never seen in her life. Brandon scoffed. "Absolutely not. Chad, don't touch her. We don't know what's wrong with that kid." Keisha flinched at the word that. How easily it rolled off his tongue, stripping her daughter of humanity. But Zuri whined again, reaching even harder, tears still fresh on her cheeks but her eyes filled with a strange, desperate longing. Chad swallowed. Maybe she's just scared. Scared of what? Brandon snapped. "We're in a secure office, not a daycare full of germs." Keisha held the baby tighter. "Please, can we just step outside so she calms?" "No." Brandon cut in sharply. "You don't get to decide how this room works." You brought chaos into a professional environment. That word again, chaos. Like her presence wasn't human, but a disruption, an eyesore, a stain on his perfect corporate world. Keisha tried to steady her breathing. She was here for one reason: keep her job. She didn't have the luxury to fight back, not when 2 checks could make the difference between shelter and eviction. Zuri let out a tiny cry, pointing again at Chad. A plea, a reach for comfort. For the first time, Chad stepped forward, hesitantly, almost apologetically. Maybe if I just hold her for a second. Brandon lifted a hand. Chad, I said an O. The room stiffened. It wasn't just authority. It wasn't just anger. It was control. Raw, suffocating control. The kind that made Keisha's skin crawl. Zuri whimpered again, louder this time. Chad cleared his throat softly. It's just a baby, Brandon. Let me help her. You don't get to challenge me. Not here. Not ever. Keisha felt her heart sink deeper than before. This wasn't about a crying child. This was about power, about hierarchy, about who mattered and who didn't. But something about Zuri's reaction wouldn't leave Keisha's mind. Why him? Why only him? She'd watched this baby shrink from every stranger since the day she was born. Yet now she was reaching for a man dressed in a Navy suit, standing quietly behind a line of powerful white executives. Then Zuri did something that made Keisha's breath catch. She spoke. Just one word. Small, whispered, but clear. The room went dead silent, and Chad's face drained of color. Zuri's tiny whisper floated through the room like a ghost. Da-da. But instead of reaching for Brandon, the CEO, the powerful older brother, she stretched her shaking arms toward quiet, soft-spoken Chad, a man she had never met. Every executive stared, confused, but no one was more shaken than Chad himself, whose breath hitched like he'd seen a memory he didn't know existed. If this happened right in front of you, what would you do? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if you stand for fairness, hit subscribe. Keisha felt her knees weaken. She held Zuri every night, through fevers, nightmares, lonely moments, and not once had her daughter ever said that word, not even for the man whose absence carved a hole in both their lives. But now she was reaching for a stranger like she'd known him her whole life. Brandon's eyes narrowed. Dada? She thinks every man is her father now. His tone dripped with disdain. Pathetic. Chad didn't respond. He couldn't. His hands were trembling. Keisha, he said softly, his voice barely a whisper. Why would she? She hugged Zuri tighter. I don't know. She doesn't go to anyone. And it was true. Zuri had cried in the arms of nurses, social workers, neighbors, even women at the daycare who tried to comfort her. But her reaction to Chad wasn't fear or panic. It was familiarity, something primal, something instinctive, something that made no sense. Brandon scoffed. Chad, step back. She's confused. Babies mistake faces all the time. But Keisha saw it, the flicker in Chad's eyes. Recognition? Guilt? Pain? Zuri squirmed, arms still raised toward him, soft sobs escaping her little chest. Keisha had never seen her daughter beg like that. Chad finally broke. He stepped forward, slow, cautious, as if walking into a dream he wasn't ready to face. He held out his hands. May I? He whispered. Keisha hesitated, her world spinning. But Zuri lunged toward him before she could decide. The moment Chad lifted her into his arms, her crying stopped completely. Just stopped. She rested her head on his shoulder, like she belonged there. A silence settled over the room. Heavy, stunned, uneasy. Brandon's jaw clenched. This is ridiculous. Chad, put her down. Now. But Chad didn't move. He was staring at the baby like a truth was unfolding right in front of him. A truth he had spent years trying not to remember. Keisha's chest tightened as she watched Zuri play with the collared Chad shirt, calm and content for first time all night. It wasn't possible. It wasn't logical. Unless this wasn't the first time this man had held her daughter. Chad looked up, and Keisha saw the fear in his eyes. Not fear of the baby. Fear of the truth. For a moment, Chad didn't blink. Didn't breathe, didn't speak. Zuri's small fingers curled into the fabric of his suit like they'd done it 1,000 times before. Her breathing slowed, soft and steady, the rhythm of a baby who felt safe. Keisha didn't understand it, didn't want to understand it, because deep inside her gut of memory she had buried started clawing its way back. The nights that had once felt like hope, the promises whispered under warm streetlights, the man who held her like she mattered. She swallowed. Hard. Chad. She said quietly, "Why is she reacting to you like this?" His eyes flickered, a flash of guilt, regret, fear, something that shouldn't belong to a stranger. He opened his mouth, but Brandon cut him off sharply. "Don't answer that. This woman is clearly trying to manipulate the situation. She wants a story. She wants a payout. They always do." Keisha felt something burn in her chest. That word. She'd heard it her entire life. At jobs, in classrooms, in places where her skin was judged before her truth ever was. But tonight, she didn't have the luxury to break. She needed income, stability, a future. Yet the past wouldn't stop pounding. 2 years ago, when she wasn't a cleaner but a college student working part-time at a seminar, she'd met a man who seemed nothing like the powerful executives in this room. A man who laughed softly, listened deeply, held her gently. A man named Chad Whitmore. Back then, she hadn't known he was connected to one of the richest families in the city. He'd never mentioned his last name, never flashed wealth. He'd meet her in diners, walk her home, talk about things that felt real, life, dreams, futures. For 3 months, she let herself believe she could have something normal, something warm. Then the day she found out she was pregnant, everything changed. She saw his expression crack, his smile fall away, his hands shake. "Keisha, I can't be a father. My family, they won't allow. This will ruin everything." She remembered how her world collapsed as he backed away, how he blocked her number, how he vanished, and how a month later, her internship was mysteriously canceled. Budget cuts, they said, but she always felt the truth behind it. Standing in this boardroom now, staring at Brandon's icy glare, Zuri peacefully tucked against Chad's chest. Everything came back. "Brandon," she said, her voice trembling but firm, "your brother wasn't a stranger to me. We knew each other." Brandon's head snapped toward Chad. "Is this true?" Chad's jaw clenched, but he didn't deny it, and silence is confession. Brandon exhaled sharply, furious. "You absolute idiot. You hid this from us." Keisha stepped closer. "You abandoned me," she whispered, eyes on Chad. "You left me holding a pregnancy test alone in a cold apartment. You made promises you broke in a single breath." Chad closed his eyes in shame, Zuri's little hand still resting on his collar. "I wanted to come back," he whispered. "I tried. But Brandon—" "Don't you dare blame me," Brandon snapped. "You chose weakness. You chose her." Keisha's stomach twisted. Chosen? No. She was discarded, thrown out, punished for existing in a world that didn't want her. But something felt off. Chad wasn't angry at her. He was terrified of Brandon. And that's when the truth slammed into her chest. Maybe he didn't disappear on his own. Maybe he was forced, controlled, crushed under the same voice now ordering him to put her daughter down. Keisha looked at Chad again, really looked, and saw a man haunted by a choice he never had the power to make. A man who might not just be her past, but might also be Zuri's father. Keisha didn't raise her voice, she didn't point fingers. She simply opened her bag, pulled out her phone, and said the kind of sentence that makes powerful men stop breathing. "Before you say anything else, I think you should all see this." Brandon froze. Chad swallowed, and the executives leaned in, because the calmest people in the room are always the most dangerous. If you believe talent can silence every insult, share this video. And to everyone watching from the US, UK, and Canada, your voice matters. Keisha tapped her screen, and a message thread appeared, bright, undeniable, time-stamped. Her thumb hovered over the first text. Her voice, steady now, cut through the room. 2 years ago, when I found out I was pregnant, someone sent me this. She read aloud. "Keisha, He can't see you again. Not now. Not ever. If you reach out, you'll destroy everything he's worked for. Do the right thing and disappear. Brandon's expression curdled. That doesn't prove anything. Keisha scrolled. Another message. Another blow. If you try to come forward with this pregnancy, the Whitmore family has enough lawyers to bury you. You'll lose your job, your housing, everything. Don't make this hard. The youngest executive stepped back as if the words had weight. Chad shut his eyes, shame gripping him like iron. Keisha's voice didn't shake. Not anymore. There's more. She swiped again. This time, bank transactions appeared, crisp, unmistakable. $200 when Zuri got sick. $150 when she needed doctor visits. $500 when she turned one. Chad's eyes widened, not in denial, but in recognition. Keisha looked straight at him. You were trying to help in secret. Why? Chad's throat tightened. Because I wasn't allowed to help. Brandon found out about us. He found the text. He told me if I didn't cut all contact, I'd be erased from the company, from the family, from every future chance I had. Brandon snapped. I was protecting you. Keisha stepped forward, her tone slicing through him. No, you were protecting your image, your power, your perfect white empire. The room shifted, an invisible tilt. For the first time, Brandon wasn't the one holding authority. He was the one being revealed. Keisha's finger hovered over one last file. And here's the best part, she whispered. She opened a photo of Zuri's birth certificate. The line for father blank. Do you know why I left it empty? Her voice softened, but her words hit harder than any scream. Because I waited 3 days, hoping he'd show up, hoping someone in this family would acknowledge my daughter's existence. Chad's face crumpled. Brandon's didn't as hardened, but the executives, they saw everything. Power abuse, manipulation, racism disguised as policy. Keisha tucked her phone away, her shoulders lifting with a quiet strength. I didn't come here to beg, she said. I came to tell the truth. And for the first time tonight, the truth belonged to her. The room didn't breathe. Nobody moved. Not after everything Keisha laid bare, the messages, the threats, the hush money transfers, the truth Brandon had spent years burying under corporate polish. Then the door opened. Not a knock, not a request. Just a man in a navy suit walking in like he owned the oxygen in the room. Tall, black, mid-50s. Confident. Cold. He placed a leather briefcase on the table. Good evening, he said calmly. I'm attorney Malcolm Reyes. I represent Ms. Keisha, Washington. Brandon's face drained. Who let you in? Your receptionist, Reyes replied. She seemed very eager to help once she heard the word civil rights, corporate liability, and paternity obstruction. A few executives took a step back. Keisha closed her eyes for half a second, not out of fear, but relief. She wasn't alone anymore. Reyes opened the briefcase. Mr. Whitmore, we have reason to believe you knowingly interfered with parental rights, used corporate authority to intimidate a black employee, and may have destroyed documentation related to a whistleblower-level claim. Brandon slammed his fist on the table. This is nonsense. Chad flinched. Executives stared. Reyes didn't blink. Nonsense, the attorney repeated. We have timestamps, IP addresses, bank transfers from your corporate account, and a threat you sent from a Whitmore Holdings device. He placed a printed copy of the message in front of Brandon. Fix this now, or consider yourself unemployed. Silence. The room watched Brandon choke on his own power. Reyes continued. We are prepared to file a civil suit by tomorrow morning. Charges include racial discrimination, coercion, harassment, paternity suppression, and retaliation against a vulnerable employee. One executive whispered, Oh my God. Another muttered, Our stocks. Brandon's voice cracked. Chad, say something. Tell them this woman is lying. But Chad stepped forward, shifting Zuri gently in his arms. I'm done lying for you, he said quietly. I'm signing the paternity papers. Brandon spun around. If you do this, you're finished in this company. Chad let out a shaky laugh. Brandon, you finished this company when you decided our last name mattered more than a child. Reyes slid documents across the table. Keisha has 3 requests, he said. All reasonable. Brandon scoffed. Let me guess. Money? Keisha finally stepped forward, straight, fearless, steady. No, I want legal recognition of my daughter, retroactive support, and reinstatement in this company, not as a cleaner. A few executives exchanged looks. Reyes continued. She wants a salaried administrative role, with benefits, and protection from retaliation. Brandon barked a laugh. Absolutely not. Reyes tapped his phone. A news headline preview glowed on the screen. Racist Ohio's secret black grandchild threatens mother with corporate power. Brandon's breath caught. Your PR team will confirm this appears online, and Reyes checked his watch. 47 minutes. Brandon's voice trembled. You wouldn't dare. Keisha stepped closer. I already did. Chad didn't speak. He didn't need to. He signed the paternity acknowledgement with a single steady stroke. Reyes pushed another paper toward Brandon. Your turn. For the first time all night, the powerful CEO's hand shook. Because this wasn't just a demand. It was justice. And justice doesn't ask permission. Brandon's signature dragged across the page like it weighed 100 pounds. When the pen finally dropped, the room felt different, like the walls themselves exhaled. Power had shifted, and everyone knew it. Chad held Zuri a little closer, brushing a tear off her cheek. The baby rested against him with the kind of peace that doesn't lie. A peace that comes from knowing your arms found home, even if it took the adults years to catch up. Keisha watched them quietly, not with anger, not with victory, with something softer, relief, and a deep ache that finally had room to breathe. Attorney Reyes packed his documents. Congratulations, Ms. Washington. This is the first day your daughter's truth stand protected under the law. Keisha nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. Thank you. The executives shuffled out, heads down, avoiding Brandon's eyes. Chad stayed still, afraid to move, afraid Zuri might slip from the moment. Keisha, he murmured. She lifted her eyes, and for the first time in 2 years, she didn't see the boy who ran. She saw the man trying to stand. I can't change what I did, he said softly, but I want to do right now. For her, for you, whatever you decide. Zuri tugged his shirt, babbling sleepily like she'd made her own decision already. Keisha breathed out a small, tired laugh. Let's start with the truth, she said, and we'll go from there. Chad nodded, eyes warm and steady. Brandon, meanwhile, stood alone at the far end of the room, watching the family he tried to erase finally exist without his permission, without his control, without his name. His empire didn't collapse in an explosion. It collapsed in silence, one broken relationship at a time. Keisha took Zuri back into her arms. The baby didn't cry. Not anymore. She looked between her mother and Chad with the innocent certainty of a child who finally sees her world put together the way it always should have been. As they walked out of the boardroom, past the glass walls, past expensive art, past the coldness of a world that had always placed Keisha last, something shifted inside her. Not revenge, not triumph, dignity, because justice isn't loud. It doesn't have to be. Sometimes justice is a little girl finally held by both her parents, a mother finally seen, a future finally shared, and a woman who spent 2 years cleaning floors, finally walking out on her own terms,